Are you thinking of moving to Puerto Rico? Condado, Dorado, and Palmas del Mar are three of the most popular areas for newbies moving to the island. Today I'm going to share with you my impressions of these three neighborhoods and why we ended up picking Dorado. So let's get to it. If you're excited to hear more about Puerto Rico, give this video a thumbs up, hit the notifications bell, and subscribe for more. A few years ago, the hubby and I relocated to Puerto Rico, and we did it for a combination of overseas adventure / midlife crisis and tax benefits. We were actually in Chile when we heard about the Act 2022 program in Puerto Rico. This was about 2014, and we decided to actually cut our trip to Chile short because we were actually thinking of moving to Chile to go to Puerto Rico to check it out. So while we were still in Chile, I basically started researching all the different areas in Puerto Rico to live. And, you know, these three neighborhoods came up as the most popular option for expats / mainlanders. So I basically did a Google image search just of all these three neighborhoods, and Palmas del Mar had the most beautiful pictures. We found a VRBO at the Marbella Club and settled in for a month. So Palmas del Mar is beautiful. You drive in, it's all perfectly manicured and pretty looking with rolling hills and ponds and tropical flowers and these lovely little neighborhoods, you know, and it's big, so there's lots of places to walk. They have a lot of walking paths and golf carts are running all over the place. They have a little plaza where there's like a little market and some restaurants and some offices. You know, there's a bank there, and then we ended up staying at the Marbella Club, which is sort of at the back of the beach side, and the Marbella Club was just beautiful. It was a newer condo development, very upscale. You know, we could see the beach kind of between the buildings over there, so it had that just resorty Caribbean feel. There was a beautiful pool there and everything, and the beaches were nice. They were small and they're on the eastern side, so everything that flows in from the Atlantic blows in. So when we were there was like the seagrass all over the place, which isn't the nicest thing, but the water was really blue and clear and it was awesome. The thing we didn't like about Palmas del Mar is that it felt like we were living in a gilded cage. Like once you get outside the gates, the town of Humacao, we didn't really care for Humacao. It was kind of an armpit. It was just messy and I don't want to say junky, but it was kind of just ugh, you know, and the grocery stores there were okay. They were very vanilla. I mean, they were all right. The downtown was hard to get to and hard to drive around in. It was kind of messy, and the nicest restaurant in town at the time was a Chili's, and we're restaurant people. We like to go out and eat a lot, so the restaurant selection in town and even in Palmas del Mar itself was really slim. So and the other thing, it was really pretty far from San Juan. You know, we like to go to San Juan to, you know, to do things, to meet up with people and friends and all of that. So it was 35-40 minutes, I think, to San Juan, and there was traffic and the freeway was a mess, and you know, it just wasn't a pleasant drive. But the one thing about Palmas del Mar that we didn't tap into while we were there for that month is the homeowners association. They have a really active, sociable homeowners association, and people get together and they do things, and there's parties and events, and you know, everyone's going to everybody's house for barbecue. And so for whatever reason, we didn't know about that. We didn't hook into it. And so maybe if we had, that might have made a difference in how we felt about the community. Because when you move from someplace like the mainland, away from friends and family, to a new place where you don't know anybody, having that instant community can be really important. And so that's something to really consider with Palmas del Mar. We've had friends that live there that just love it for that reason. And also, if you have children, they have a very good private school there that has some great programs. It's not the most expensive private school on the island, so it's definitely worth a look. Palmas del Mar definitely works for some people. It just wasn't a good fit for us. So while we were in Palmas del Mar, we did hook up with a real estate agent to see a few properties in the area. We looked at the Marbella Club models that were, you know, really expensive but beautifully done. We looked at a foreclosure in the building next door that had you know, had been sitting on the market for a while, and it had a nice jungle mountain view, but it was kind of small and maybe a little spendy for what it was. And then we also looked at some other properties around Palmas and kind of considered that whole area. But I think because Palmas wasn't singing to us, because it was just kind of so remote and removed and from everything else, that we decided to go ahead and hook up with a real estate agent in San Juan and look around San Juan and Dorado area. So we basically looked mostly in Condado and Isla Verde, because we would have considered Old San Juan, except that, you know, we love Old San Juan, but there wasn't really anything in our budget at the time, and there's no real good grocery store down there, and it is a little bit louder down there. So we just, I don't know, we were more drawn to Condado and that area. So we looked at a few places in Condado and Ocean Park. Ocean Park I love, but it's just kind of out of our budget. And then Isla Verde. Isla Verde was kind of interesting because when you go there, it's very touristy, but the prices are better, and you can, you know, you're right next to the water. But the other thing is you're right next to the airport. So there's two ends to Isla Verde, and you want to be at the end where it's kind of further away from where the planes are just gunning the engines. So you really have to be aware of the airplane noise there. We actually stayed at a Marriott there once, and we were like, oh my God, this plane noise is so loud. So be aware of that when you're looking at Isla Verde. It's also very touristy, and you know, it just has that vibe of, I don't know, people there for the weekend, and parking is difficult, and you know, it's just kind of loud and busy, and I don't know, it's not for us, but it was, you know, it's for a lot of people. It's an awesome place if you're in the mood for that. So then we looked at Condado, and Condado, we really liked Condado because it had that sort of South Beach, Miami feel to it. It had these, you know, nice condo buildings near the ocean, and there were lots of restaurants that you could walk to, and there were some markets. There was even the Fresh Mart was there, which is the organic market, you know, so there were a lot of amenities there. But the problem was it was kind of expensive for what it was. It was kind of loud, you know, it just never stopped, and the parking situation was pretty bad. It was difficult to find parking, or if your building had parking, the parking space was going to be like really teeny tiny. And driving around Condado just would make me crazy, because the traffic there is so bad so many times of the day that I just wasn't in the mood for that. I can totally see living in Condado and barely using your car and walking everywhere and the beach, and it's beautiful, and shops and the restaurants, and that's all great. But for us, we just weren't, it wasn't singing to us either. So our agent ended up taking us out to Dorado, and Dorado has a lot of different neighborhoods that we looked at. We looked at Sabanera, which is sort of this suburban, beautiful new development that has the TASIS private school in there. It's bilingual. It's like the top school on the island, or one of the top schools. It's amazing. Very pretty in there, but it was a little bit removed from town. And then we looked at the Paseos, and that's also kind of a suburban development of newer homes in town, very close to Dorado Beaches, very close to kind of the hub of the shopping area of Dorado. And then we also saw a few things in Dorado Del Mar. Dorado Del Mar is like an older, in fact, I've been told it's the first gated community in Puerto Rico. So it's this older community. It's got a mixture of some townhomes, some condos on the beach, and some single-story, you know, just homes, basically. It's a good mix. And it also has a private school in there, the Dorado Academy, I think it's called. I'll have to look that up, but it's a good school. Anyway, so we looked at some beach places in there that were just kind of like, oh God, these need to be fixed up. And we looked at a single-story home that was like, it was okay. But we looked at this townhome that we ended up buying, and we weren't even going to buy. In fact, if you're moving to the island and you're new, I don't recommend buying, because you really just want to rent for a while so that you're not tied to an area, because, you know, it's not just seeing it the first time, it's living in it for a few months to make sure you really like it. So yeah, don't do what we did. We ended up buying because we fell in love with this place, which you're not supposed to do when you're buying property, but we did. It was a very special end unit. It's the best unit in the entire complex, overlooking the pond, the golf course, and you just had this, and the architecture had this sort of open, airy feel with a touch of Art Deco to it. It was just, we just fell in love with it. It was awesome. It was big, it was spacious, there were terraces everywhere. We looked out onto this just beautiful scene. It felt like we were living in a house, even though it was a townhouse, and we loved the whole HOA thing where they just take care of all the outdoor stuff and we don't have to. So we ended up buying there. Unfortunately, Dorado Beach East and Dorado Beach was out of our price range. If you have money and that's no object, then definitely Dorado Beach is a great place to live. And in fact, Dorado Beach comes with that community aspect that Palmas del Mar also comes with, that we just, you know, we weren't living in that community, we weren't really part of that, but it does exist. So that's a good option. And then there's some condos even further out of town there toward Rincón that are kind of inexpensive, and you can get some nice ocean views there as well. So there's a lot of options in Dorado, and we liked the feel of Dorado because it was, you know, it was away from San Juan. It was like 30 minutes away, but it had a nice freeway to get there. So if you know, and yes, there was traffic, but there were times that you could avoid the traffic. So we could arrange our lives to kind of get around that. And so that worked for us. And it was quieter in Dorado, and we could walk to the beach. It was like 8 minutes walk to the beach, and it had restaurants. I had a lot of restaurants. Dorado has some manufacturing in town. They've got some pharmaceutical companies in there making drugs or whatever, medical equipment. And so there's kind of an economic base there, which supports a lot of restaurants. So we had tons of restaurants we could go to lunch at, go to dinner at, and we liked the beachy vibe of the town. It had a really cute downtown. You know, they'd have these little Friday things every once a month. On Fridays, the whole town would gather for like a town party, and there'd be like street food and, you know, just little vendors selling their wares and all of that. And it was really a lot of fun. So for us, Dorado was the choice. You know, we're empty nesters. We don't have kids. You know, if we had kids, maybe Sabanera would have been the choice for us because we'd want to be near the TASA school. Or even if we had kids and you want to live the city life, Condado has 2 really excellent private schools that, you know, you can walk to right there. So, you know, those are options as well. Another option that's really popular with people who are moving to the island is Rincón. And Rincón is like way on the west side of the island. It's probably like a 3.5 hour drive from San Juan. It is actually a really cool town. And if I don't know, if I wasn't married to Ted, who needs to be near civilization, I might consider it because it had this really cool beachy hippie surfer vibe to it, you know, and it had grocery stores and a cute little plaza area, and it had some amazing beaches. And there's this one stretch of beach that I love. It's like all yoga studios and, you know, beachside restaurants where you can eat, and it just has this like great artistic aura to it. That whole side of the island is actually really nice. It's quieter, it's got great beaches, and you know, it's a lot of fun, and it's a little more authentic Puerto Rican. I mean, okay, the whole island is authentic Puerto Rican, but you know, and Rincón is, I think people call it Little America. I mean, there's a lot of expats and English speakers and mainlanders living there. So, you know, it's not so foreign. We ended up in Dorado because, you know, we need to be near San Juan. We needed to be near the airport. We needed to be near activities. We wanted to, you know, hook into the emerging tech community and meet up with people, and just pretty much San Juan is the center of activity, and so we just wanted to be near that. If you're moving to the island, you really need to come and spend some time and check out all the different areas. There are so many different areas. Like, if I were doing it again, this time I might end up choosing Miramar next to Santurce, and Miramar is across the bay from Condado. Miramar is great because you can get a lot of those lagoon and peak ocean views, but without all the hassle of the driving that you run into in Condado. And Miramar and Santurce have all of these, you know, up and coming restaurants. They have like this whole restaurant quarter, and there's like this farmer's market, and you know, there's a lot of artists that live in the area. So that's really kind of a fun up and coming area that I would totally consider. I would also reconsider Old San Juan, or that little spit of land between Old San Juan and Paseo del Caribe. And if I had the money, I would totally live in Paseo del Caribe, because that's just a beautiful building that's just, you know, it's easy to get to, and it's got parking, and it's just right there in the middle of everything. And even away from San Juan, there's so many little beautiful mountain towns. Like Aibonito is just such an amazing, beautiful little town, and the weather up there is so much cooler. The Caribbean heat really got to me. That just turned out to not be my thing. You know, if I had lived in the mountains, maybe I could have lasted longer. And there's a lot of little towns to explore up there. So come to the island, spend some time, rent for a while to see what you really like, before you take the plunge into purchasing. Because once you purchase a property in Puerto Rico, the market isn't necessarily as liquid as in the United States, and it might take you a long time to sell. I mean, it's pretty much a commitment. So if you do end up buying, if you buy a property that you can actually rent out profitably, that's a good move, because you might not be able to always sell right away when you want to. So anyway, so that was our experience exploring neighborhoods and moving to Puerto Rico. I'm sure your experience would be different, and in fact, I'd love to hear what your experience was. If you've come to the island, if you've explored, if you picked a neighborhood, what did you pick and why? If you're thinking about moving to the island and you're thinking about these neighborhoods, if you have any questions, please ask. I'm happy to help you out. It's a really fantastic island, and moving there for us was, an incredible cultural journey, and it was really fun, and it didn't end up ultimately being our forever home, but it was a fantastic place to be. We met so many amazing people, and I would recommend it for anyone having a midlife crisis or looking for tax benefits. So anyway, so that's it for this week. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.